Most buyers are watching interest rates. Smart buyers are looking at something else entirely. In the 2026 suburban Philadelphia real estate market, it seems like rates are dominating the headlines. Everyone is watching, are they going to go up? Are they going to come down? Is now a good time to buy? Smart buyers are looking at numerous other factors to determine whether the overall value of either selling their home right now or buying their dream home right now makes sense to them. So some of these factors include, and we'll dive into more later in the video, but just high level stuff. What's the school district like around you? What is the commute like into Philly, or maybe down into DC or up into New York? What are the lifestyle amenities that either you're looking for or that you're providing to a potential buyer? Are you near a downtown with great restaurants? Are you near parks that allow you to get out into nature easily? All of these factors and more that we'll dive into later are going to affect the long-term value of the real estate that you are interested in. Understanding how these factors come into play, and yes, of course, rates are one of these factors, but some of these other factors may just be a bigger driver of long-term value. So before I dive in to how some of these factors are going to drive long-term value, I'm going to give the shameless plug that I feel like everyone on YouTube needs to give. Please, I love giving you guys this information. I want to keep helping you guys understand the Philly suburban real estate market. So please subscribe, like, do all the social media things. And now my plug's over and we can dive in. So why interest rates seem to get so much credit in terms of making sound real estate decisions. So interest rates are absolutely going to affect the monthly payment that you're going to be paying and buyer and seller psychology when it comes to real estate. Talked about this in previous videos. I have no doubt I will talk about this in upcoming videos. But let's just take a step back and explain what rates do. So as interest rates come up, the ability to borrow money comes down. When money gets essentially more expensive, you're going to have fewer buyers entering the market. When fewer buyers enter the market, demand goes down and prices will come down accordingly. The flip side, rates go down, money is therefore essentially cheaper. When money's cheaper, more buyers into the market, more competition, prices go up. So that feels like it should affect every real estate decision, and it does. That's why you see a few years ago, especially coming out of the pandemic, when we had very low rates, you had a ton of buyers in the market, prices crept up accordingly. It felt like sellers could price their home wherever they wanted, and at least a few buyers would come through and start competing for that home. Now, as rates have settled a bit, it's not at such ideal levels like it was a few years ago. Now these other factors are starting to present themselves again and are determining the immediate value of your home as they have always determined the long-term value of your home. So, takeaway here, rates often affect the speed with which transactions are conducted and the total volume of people trying to conduct these transactions. It does not affect the long-term value of the home you're either looking to buy or currently looking to list. So let's get into what factors do affect this long-term value. And the first one, you can argue it's the biggest one. I think it's tied with inventory, which I've talked about in other videos and we'll touch briefly today. I don't want to just become the inventory guy, but school district strength. So across Philadelphia suburbs, whether we're talking about Chester County, the Main Line, Bucks County, if we're moving over into New Jersey, in Camden County in the Jersey suburbs, schools are a huge determining factor in terms of what people are willing to assign as a home's long-term value. So let's break this down a bit by submarket. So let's look at the Main Line first. Unbelievable school districts here you're looking at as ranked by U.S. News, all of this. Obviously, you need to look at the school district in terms of the values that you are looking for in a school district. Don't always just follow these rankings, but I'm going to go by rankings because it's the easiest way to do this. So, Lower Merion, Radnor, Tredyffrin, these are great school districts, and they bring along with them a lot of long-term value to the homes located therein. Combine this with some beautiful, walkable downtowns. some great access in terms of commuting into the city. The primary one, think trains, it's called the main line for a reason, but all these combined really drive up mainline long-term home value. But it's not the only Philadelphia suburb where we see school districts playing a large role in driving value. Let's look at Chester County, for example. So if you're looking at, let's say, Downingtown, Great Valley, these are very good school districts, and that's why we've seen home value creep up over the last few decades in these areas. Now, if you look at somewhere like Westchester or Malvern, where you combine this home value with walkable downtowns with a lot of amenities, then you really see value starting to drive up. I grew up in Westchester. It felt almost rural when I was growing up there. Now with the development that has gone on over these past few decades, it feels fully almost luxurious here. It's competing with the main line in terms of value now, which I think to people who maybe bought there 20 years ago is shocking in a good way because you've seen your home value creep up. We've seen similar things in Bucks County. My dad grew up in Bucks County, and if you look in these very good school districts, so you're thinking Central Bucks in the Doylestown area, Council Rock in the Richboro area, and Pennsbury in that Yardley area, that's where you see long-term home values have really increased. People want to be in these locations. So interest rates in these scenarios certainly affect how aggressively people bid. They're going to change the timing somewhat of how people bid, but that long-term value is going to hold in these ideal school locations. So walkable downtowns and lifestyle infrastructure. This is going to work very similarly. These towns have gravity. So if you're thinking about Ardmore, for example, with Suburban Square, maybe you're thinking about Wayne with all these amazing restaurants. I highly recommend you check out Blue Elephant. It's delicious. But they also have movie theaters, boutiques, and access into Philly for a better, I guess not necessarily better, but what seems like a more manageable commute. These walkable downtowns and lifestyle amenities are going to be a big driver of long-term home value. So, like I'm going to belabor, rates absolutely affect affordability on the margins, and they're going to affect the total volume of people coming into the market. But demand is going to stay high for these locations that have a combination of great schools and highly walkable, accessible downtowns. It's what people want. It's what people are willing to pay essentially that premium for when rates are a little bit elevated. Okay. Like I said earlier, beyond school districts, I personally believe inventory is the #1 driver of home value in the Philadelphia suburbs. I think this is particularly pertinent to 2026 as we roll into this new year, especially as the spring is about to hit and everyone's engines are getting revved up to start buying and selling homes. Inventory is really a national problem, but I think the Philadelphia suburban market is a perfect encapsulation of what we're seeing when you actually look on the ground. So why do the Philly suburbs have an inventory problem? So it's a few reasons. One, it's been developed. Philadelphia is an amazing place to be. Go Birds. People want to work in the city. They love raising families here. It has great metro access in terms of to Philly, but even more that, very easy to get to DC, very easy to get to New York. You can get to Baltimore too, and people want to live here. So what has that meant over the past few decades, really basically a century now? The suburban development has been through the roof. There's just not that much land left to develop on. Beyond that, homes that come up in ideal locations, people are going to pay a premium because they want to live in that home, not necessarily tear that down or tear down a bigger parcel of land and build a few different homes on it. It's just rare that that happens. So in conjunction with just limited land, because of decades of development, you also have relatively strict zoning laws. So even if a developer does get their hands on a parcel of land that could be ideal for developing, they're still jumping through the zoning hurdles to get that project off the ground. What does that lead to? not a lot of new homes coming up for sale. It makes it hard for entry-level buyers. It can make it difficult for early move-up buyers because you're competing with people that might be able to pull a ton of equity out of their home and throw that in terms of cash at a new home. So it makes it tough to enter the Philly suburban real estate market. And when it's tough to enter and it's a desirable place, that drives home values up. So let's talk a bit about micro location now. So I've talked about big, broader locations, mainline, Chester County, Bucks County, the New Jersey suburbs. But when you're looking at a specific house, if you're looking to list your house, we need to be much more nuanced and focused than that. What does that entail? It means, what kind of street are you on? Is it adjacent to a big highway? Are you on a quiet street? What's the orientation of your lot? What's your lot layout like? All of these are going to come into play in terms of your home value. You're going to have a very different home value, potentially one block over. If you have a block between a major street, maybe you're a block into a secluded neighborhood that's now on a quiet street. Maybe you have a beautiful sunrise that comes up through your front door every morning. Maybe you have a beautiful sunset in your backyard every day. All of these are going to affect your long-term home value. And I think this little, I hesitate to say, niche part of buying and selling homes is often overlooked, and it can make a big difference in terms of pricing, in terms of how you evaluate a home to potentially put an offer in on, as opposed to how others would. So understanding the dynamics of the specific lot, of the specific microenvironment that you're looking at, is more important than I believe people give it credit for in terms of buying and selling in the Philadelphia suburbs. So I've touched on this a bit, so I'll just breeze through this relatively quickly, but commute patterns are a big deal in terms of where people want to be and what drives long-term home value in the Philadelphia suburbs. So let's talk about the Pennsylvania side first. So having easy SEPTA access is big. It's part of what made the main line such a hotbed for people who want to live in the suburbs. It's called the main line for a reason. It's easy to get into Philly, and if you can easily get into Philly, you can get into other major urban centers pretty quickly as well. Beyond that, people also look for a relatively easy highway access. What are the big ones? 202, 76. Having that straight shot into Philly will drive up home prices. Now, looking on the other side of the Delaware at New Jersey, you're going to see the same thing. Easy access to PATCO. New Jersey Transit is going to put a premium on certain towns. Think Haddonfield, Moorestown. It's easy to get into Philly from these areas. Beyond that, on the driving side, 295, easy access to the turnpike, not only gets you access to Philly, but it also gets you access to New York and to the shore very easily. You have to think about who you're competing with. Maybe someone wants that easy access to the shore. They're willing to pay a premium for it. Those are the people you're competing with on the New Jersey side of the Philly suburbs. Another more niche thing that drives long-term home value beyond just rates is the turnkey premium. This really starts cropping up as you see slightly elevated rates, and elevated rates is going to be a little bit relative. Like, rates right now aren't astronomical by historical standards, but because we're seeing some of the lowest rates in history just a few years ago, now these rates feel high and people are reacting to that relative rate increase. So the turnkey premium, when money is more expensive to borrow, people want to have that money go as far as they can make it go. They don't want to move into a house and then have to get a contractor involved, get material acquisition involved at elevated rates because everything feels more expensive. The turnkey premium is when rates are high, people want to be able to just move into their home and have it feel like their dream home and not have another instance of having to deal with these elevated rates. So what this means for buyers, understand that these properties that are well maintained, maybe recently renovated, there's going to be relatively more competition for these properties than something that might need one big project, maybe you have to finish a whole basement, maybe the roof just needs a repair. These are going to have relatively less competition during times of elevated rates. The thing is here, this doesn't apply Philly suburbs wide. There are going to be certain markets, because of the other long-term value factors I've just gone through, that it doesn't really matter if they need a bit of renovating or not. These other factors are going to keep that value high and keep demand pretty consistent. So this has to be placed within all the other factors I just discussed to see if it really is worth it to prioritize a turnkey property as opposed to, look, this is the property of our dreams and the location of our dreams that has this high long-term value. We can deal with putting a new roof on it because we're going to be here for the next 30 years. All of these need to go into your judgment as both a buyer and a seller in terms of the overall value of your property. And rates are just one of the factors that are going to influence that decision. So a lot of people get hyper-focused on rate and they don't think about other carrying costs. Particularly, they don't factor in taxation. So when you think taxes in the Philly suburbs, you think of the Jersey side. So you're thinking about moving to Haddonfield, you're thinking about moving to Medford, you're thinking about moving to Cherry Hill. A lot of value could be either adjusted up or adjusted down depending on the tax rate that you're going to get. This is going to factor in to your monthly costs. It's why certain buyers get pushed into the Pennsylvania side of the suburbs, because they just don't want to deal with that tax premium of the New Jersey side. However, understanding it as leverage in negotiations, whether you're buying or selling, can make your offers much more advantageous on the New Jersey side. On the Pennsylvania side, you should not ignore taxes completely. There are certain sub-markets, think Lower Merion, think Doylestown, where you're going to have slightly elevated taxes. Now, are there some benefits that come with that? When you think elevated taxes, you often think, well, it's probably going to schools. So there are trade-offs here. You need to make the trade-offs that are right for you. But only focusing on rates to the exclusion of other carrying costs, taxes being a huge one of those, leads to uninformed decisions that you may ultimately regret. Yes, consider rates. Yes, consider all of these other factors that I've gone through, but you also need to consider the taxes. So let's step back and talk about what this means on the ground for both buyers, and then we'll jump into sellers. So buyers, you should not be waiting for rates alone. Rates are one of the factors to consider in terms of timing, price you're willing to pay, and location of your dream home. So focus on the fundamentals, prioritize any of these factors that are important to you, and make sure rate is not the end-all be-all, but another factor we are considering in terms of the right time, place, and price for your dream home. Now, what this means for sellers in 2026, you need to know where you are in terms of micro location. You're going to have a very different time selling your home, whether you're in Malvern, Doylestown, Cherry Hill, wherever it might be. You need to understand the street you're on, the school district you're in, the town you're near, your access to that town, your access to Philly, what kind of tax structure you're sitting in right now. All of these are going to come into play, especially in terms of the most important decision you will make in your listing process, setting a price. Rates do come into play here. Rates, when they're elevated, punish overpricing more than when they're through the floor. Understanding that dynamic, along with the sub-market, micro-market, and macro market you are in, will help you make informed decisions and be able to sell your home for the price you desire. So, final takeaway, and I'll just reiterate it. A lot of buyers are watching rates. Smart buyers are looking at something else. Long-term value affects home pricing, it affects home access, and it affects your lifestyle more than rates alone will. Will rates shape affordability and psychological sentiment in the market? Absolutely they will. But they're just one factor of many, including school district demand, town access, commute access, whether it's a turnkey property or not, your micro location and everything that comes with that, and understanding the tax structure that you're located in. All of these come together and form the long-term value of your home or the home of your dreams. Now, I love talking about this. I want to talk about this more with you. So if you have any questions or comments, please either leave them down in the comments or reach out to me directly with all the information provided below. I can't wait to get started working with you, and I'll see you next time.